6 years after the breakup, Osmond has achieved success and fame, with a net worth exceeding 100 million. While I had long since left the stage, no longer in the spotlight, at the gathering, he announced his engagement. Unaware classmates came to congratulate me. Congratulations. Finally ending the 9-year-long run, I smiled faintly and explained, I'm already married. Don't joke about Mr. Osmond. Everyone's expressions varied, and they all looked toward the corner at Osmond. The man, who had suppressed his emotions all night, finally burst out, sneering mockingly, how come he didn't even buy you a ring when you got married? As the words fell, the atmosphere in the private room instantly froze. The dead silence lasted for an unknown amount of time, until suddenly, the class representative leaned in and whispered, what's going on? Isn't your husband Osmond? I shook my head. We broke up 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Wasn't that the year the Osmond family went bankrupt? Her expression shifted from shock to confusion. Back then, didn't you say you'd get married right after graduation? How did it? I cut her off. Sorry, I need to go to the restroom. The moment I stood up, countless eyes fell upon me. Some were puzzled, some were regretful, but most of all, they were gloating. The moment I stepped out of the private room, murmurs drifted through the crack of the door. I told you they broke up ages ago, but none of you believed me. How did you know? I saw it. On graduation day, Osmond begged her not to break up, but she just walked off arm in arm with another guy. The door closed, cutting off the sighs inside. I clenched my fist and turned to leave. That female classmate was right. On the day of my college graduation ceremony, I initiated the breakup. Osmond held onto the corner of my suitcase and asked in a hoarse voice, can we not break up? It's okay if you don't like me. Anything is fine. His eyes were slightly red. We're not breaking up. I expressionlessly brushed his hand away. It's just a breakup. Osmond, don't be a sore loser. At that moment, Osmond's face turned as pale as if it were transparent. After a long while, a broken syllable squeezed out from his throat. Okay. I was pricked by the intense despair in his eyes, and almost instinctively, I grabbed my suitcase and turned to leave. Although I was the one who brought up the breakup, it was something he had been longing for a long time. Now, who is he putting on this show of despair for? After that day, we never saw each other again. It was only now that I realized he had never publicly announced our breakup. I came out of the restroom. From a distance, I saw Osmond on the phone at the entrance of the private room. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with an added mature charm that he hadn't possessed before. As I approached, he was speaking softly, coaxing someone on the other end of the phone. His eyes were doting, his brows and eyes gentle. It was a look I had never seen before. As I passed him, he suddenly called out to me. I paused. Can I help you? He curled his lips, his sarcasm unconcealed. Your knack for being disgusting hasn't changed one bit over the years. With that, he turned and left without warning. My mouth hung open, and all the sharp, retaliatory words I had prepared could only be swallowed back in vain. A strong sense of absurdity welled up within me. He called out to me just to say that one sentence. What kind of nonsense is this? A greeting after so many years. I didn't go back to the private room. I sent a message to the class monitor, saying I had to leave early. He insisted on walking me out. While waiting for the class monitor by the roadside, I saw Osmond again. He was leaning against a utility pole, the street lamp casting his shadow long. Before long, a car pulled up in front of him. A woman got out of the car and rushed towards him. I recognized her. It was our high school classmate, Helen. She is Osmond's fiancée. The class monitor's voice sounded from behind. I was stunned, a bitter feeling welling up inside me. I never expected that they would end up together after all. On the way back, the class monitor seemed to want to say something several times but ultimately remained silent. When we reached the hotel entrance, I prepared to open the door and get out of the car. He suddenly asked, Julia, aren't you going to try a little harder? The class monitor was the only old classmate who knew everything about Osmond and me. Over the years, he and I had always kept in touch, but wouldn't tell me anything about Osmond. Otherwise, I wouldn't have just found out that Helen is his fiancée. I shook my head. Don't say things like that anymore. He's getting married. I paused, then added, I'm married too. The class monitor said nothing more. That night, someone posted a video in the class group chat. In the video, I was seen leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding a red certificate. The classmate who posted the video said, a friend of mine ran into her. She was there to get a divorce. What a shame. I didn't get to see what her husband looked like. A single sentence stirred up 1,000 waves. The group chat quickly became lively. Her husband really isn't Osmond. No, my classmate knows Osmond, and that man isn't him. Then why did she get divorced? What else could it be? She just saw Osmond making a comeback and regretted it. Whose fault is that? She only has herself to blame for being a gold digger. Speaking of which, aren't you curious why they broke up? If I remember correctly, at the graduation ceremony, Osmond said something about getting married right after graduation. Does that even need guessing? Of course, it's because Osmond's family went bankrupt. I've been saying for ages that Julia is no good. The messages in the group chat kept coming, but I had no mind to read them anymore. Exiting the group chat, the class monitor forwarded me a chat log. It was a conversation between him and Osmond. Osmond, address. The squad leader sent my address and asked, "Are you going to find her?" Osmond took a long time to send an address. The address of my wedding. It's changed. The chat history ends here. The squad leader sent a voice message. Julia. He never forgot you all these years. I typed and deleted in the chat box, but felt anything I said would be futile. Actually, what the classmates in the group said wasn't right. Osmond did say things like we'd get married as soon as we graduated, but he was speaking to Helen, a month before graduation. Helen came to see him. She made it clear that she wouldn't give up on him. Osmond told her, "Julia and I are getting married right after graduation, so give it up." I joyfully shared the news with my family, but then I overheard him telling his brother, "Helen's family wants to send her abroad for further studies. I can't hold her back." His brother asked, "Don't you think this is unfair to Julia?" Osmond mused for a moment before saying, "I will marry her. But I don't want to get married anymore." That night, I broke up with him. "I'm sorry. My family doesn't approve of our marriage. Let's just break up." He insisted I tell him the truth. I said, "You came to mess with me before your heart was clean," which is quite embarrassing, being as intelligent as he was. He immediately understood what I meant. "Julia, I don't love her. I only want to be with you." He fumbled to console me. "I didn't lie to you. I really want to marry you." Looking at the flustered man before me, I still softened and let myself be appeased. A month later, Helen's news of going abroad arrived. Osmond was distracted all day. Later, he said he had an urgent matter, left me alone in the library, and ran off in the heavy rain. After a moment of hesitation, I still chased after him. When I reached the airport, I only saw a couple embracing in the rain. Perhaps recalling past events, I slept very restlessly that night. After waking up, I received a call from Clyde. As soon as I answered, his flippant voice came through. "Auntie, I've been waiting for you downstairs for ages. What are you waiting for me for?" The voice on the other end was a little resentful. "You promised so readily when we divorced yesterday, and now, after just one night, you've forgotten." It took me a moment to remember that I was supposed to go back to Clyde's place today. Our marriage was one of convenience. He did it to appease his family. I did it for the money. 6 years of marriage, and we never lived together, barely even sharing meals. "I'm going back to Clyde's place today because the elders in our families received news of our divorce," Clyde said. "If you're going to put on a show, do it properly. Today, I'm going home to perform the final act." Clyde's car was parked across the street. As I was about to cross, a Maybach pulled up in front of me. The car window rolled down, revealing Osmond's chiseled face. "Get in the car." I didn't move. His eyes were deep set. "Where are you going?" "I'll give you a ride." I politely declined. "No, my husband is picking me up." As my words fell, he curved his lips ever so slightly. "There's no one else here now. You don't have to pretend." He still didn't believe I was married. Seeing the mocking smile on his lips, I suddenly remembered something from 6 years ago. In my senior year of college, my family arranged a marriage for me, to defy my family. I brought Osmond home and told my parents I was pregnant with his child. My parents were furious, raising their hands as if to strike me. Osmond shielded me, then knelt before my parents, promising to treat me well for the rest of his life. That night, I made a promise to him too, a promise that I would only marry him in this lifetime. He asked, "What if we don't end up together?" I raised my hand and swore, "If I, Julia, don't marry Osmond, then I will never marry in this life." Osmond knew that I always kept my word. That's why he was so certain I hadn't married, but he didn't know that in the second month after we broke up, I married Clyde. Osmond, before I could finish, the car window in the back seat rolled down, revealing Helen's pretty face. She greeted me warmly. "Julia, get in. We'll give you a ride." I coolly refused. "No need to trouble yourself. My husband is picking me up." "Oh, is that so?" Helen glanced resentfully at Osmond. "See. Julia said she's married, but you insisted she wasn't. Why would she lie to us?" In the driver's seat, from the moment Helen spoke, Osmond had been staring straight ahead. When he looked over again, his eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. "Since he's coming to pick you up, let's wait for him to arrive before we leave." The air froze instantly. Even Helen's smile stiffened, but she quickly agreed. "That's right, it won't make much difference. Besides, we haven't met your husband yet." "Who wants to see me?" Clyde's voice suddenly rang out behind me. A pair of large hands rested on my shoulders, and the tall man leaned in intimately, his voice like a subwoofer. "Wife, who are they?" "High school classmates." Clyde smiled, extending his hand to Osmond, who had already exited the car. "Hello, I'm Julia's husband, the moment their hands clasped, Osmond's voice seemed to echo from ancient times. "Hello, I'm her first love." Clyde raised an eyebrow. "So you're the scumbag, huh?" He held my hand that was pinching him, his voice ambiguous. "There are too many people here, don't make a scene." Then he turned and smiled brazenly at Osmond. "Excuse us, we have things to do, so we'll be leaving now." "Wait," Osmond suddenly spoke up. "We haven't been in touch all these years. If I may be so bold as to ask, when did you two get married?" Clyde blurted out. 6 years ago, right after she graduated from university." Hearing his words, Osmond's angular face flashed with an emotion I couldn't decipher. After a long moment, he slowly spoke. "So, it was a seamless transition." Clyde was about to say something else, but I stopped him. "Grandpa called, he's rushing us." Clyde curved his lips. "All right, let's go home." He got into the car, but wasn't in a hurry to drive. Instead, he looked at me with a playful smirk. "So eager to divorce me, is it because of him? But I heard he's getting married too, if I'm not mistaken." "You left because of that woman, didn't you?" I have to admit, Clyde's insight was truly remarkable. There's no way to keep this from him. Helen is the insurmountable gap between Osmond and me. Before I came along, Helen and Osmond had already known each other for 2 years. I used to think that love could overcome all difficulties, but later I realized that the order of appearance in life matters more. How could it be so easy to let go of someone who left a lasting impression in one's youth? For me, and for Osmond, it's the same. Actually, after getting the marriage certificate with Clyde, I called Osmond. The one who answered the phone was Helen. I struggled to speak. "Could you please pass the phone to Osmond? He's taking a shower. May I ask who's calling?" After hanging up, my heart felt as cold as ashes. During that time, I couldn't sleep day or night, obsessing over this man hysterically, but he had long since forgotten about it. After that day, I cancelled the number and went abroad. Seeing that I had been silent for a long time, Clyde asked again, "If he came back, would you be with him?" I frowned. "Don't ask hypothetical questions like that. The way he looks at you isn't innocent." He suddenly dropped his playful expression. "Julia, I suddenly regret divorcing you a little." I glared at him in annoyance. "If you're going to say things like that, we won't be able to continue this conversation." The next second, the man's handsome face unexpectedly loomed large before my eyes. I recoiled in horror, pushing him away, but he instead grabbed my hand and drew even closer, finally stopping just 1 centimeter away from the tip of my nose. I widened my eyes, trying to break free from his grasp. "Clyde, we're already divorced. Don't move, your ex is looking this way." I froze. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Osmond's car slowly approaching. On the bustling road, his car's speed seemed unusually abrupt. "If you keep looking, you'll give it away." Inside the carriage, we were too close, and with every breath, I inhaled his unique scent. Time ticked by second. I was restless, but he showed no sign of leaving. "Clyde," I looked up, met his gaze, and froze. I had never seen Clyde like this before, focused, earnest, and deeply affectionate. He was a completely different person from the usual carefree scion. In 6 years of marriage, the times we had been alone together were few and far between, and certainly not like now, where the tension was at its peak. Just as I was about to push him away, he suddenly spoke. "Julia, I want to kiss you." As he spoke, he leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head away, avoiding his approaching lips. He paused in surprise, then chuckled softly. "Now that we're divorced, you won't even pretend." I didn't respond. In these past 6 years, he and I weren't exactly innocent either. In front of our elders, physical contact was unavoidable, and occasionally he would pretend to kiss me, but it was always just for show. This is the first time he's kissed me when we're alone like this. As they stood in a stalemate, he unexpectedly looked out the window. "He's gone." Following his gaze, I only saw the lingering image of Osmond's car. Clyde slowly returned to the driver's seat. TSK, speeding in the city. Looks like he's lost his mind from anger. Back at Clyde's house, Clyde and I were inevitably interrogated. No matter how much the elders questioned us, we insisted that our relationship had broken down and we couldn't continue living together. Although the elders were angry, Clyde and I were determined not to remarry, and there was nothing they could do. When leaving Clyde's house, Clyde was held back by Clyde's grandpa, just before stepping out. Clyde grabbed my hand, his gaze sorrowful. "Can we still be friends?" The corner of my mouth twitched as I played along with his act. "Sure." Clyde saw me out, then turned back to the elders and said, "Wait for me. I'll be right back." After seeing her off, once outside, Clyde skillfully circled to the driver's side, got in the car, stepped on the gas, leaving only the roar of the engine behind. He grinned smugly. "So, how was my acting?" I ignored him. This kind of thing had happened more than once or twice. Almost every time he ran away, what awaited him was an even greater storm. But he just never learned his lesson. "By the way, there's a dance tomorrow. Come with me, I sighed. Clyde, we're already divorced. Even if we're divorced, we have to let everyone know it was an amicable split. Nonsense. He dropped me off at the hotel and then rushed off to his friend's gathering. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Osmond standing at the hotel entrance, talking on the phone. I ignored him completely. I walked around him and headed towards the lobby. I entered the elevator, pressed the button for my floor, and just as the doors were about to close, a tall, slender figure stepped in. He didn't press any button and stood behind me. The elevator door closed, and the oppressive presence behind me in the cramped space was impossible to ignore. A tall figure was reflected on the elevator door, its blurred outline overlapping with the image from when we first met at 17. That year, he wore a white shirt, radiant and handsome, his smile brighter than the sun. I was the one who pursued him. After the college entrance exams ended, we officially got together. On the day I found out about Helen's existence, Osmond got into a fight with a classmate. By the time I arrived at the scene, only he and Helen were left. Helen was holding him, crying her heart out. Seeing me, Osmond instinctively pushed her away and explained to me, she was just being harassed by someone. His eyes were sincere. I didn't even think in that direction. At that time, I didn't know, and neither did he. In the 4 years that followed, the 3 letters of Helen would become a thorn, deeply embedded in my heart. I became sensitive and suspicious because of her. Most of the time, he would patiently explain, but a person's patience has its limits. After it happens too many times, anyone would get tired. After our last argument, the look he gave me was full of exhaustion. Julia, you've changed so much I hardly recognize you. He didn't know that stable emotions and intense love cannot coexist, because love never lets one stay rational. Ding dong. The moment the elevator doors opened, I practically fled out of it. As I stopped at my room door, a shadow fell over me from above. Osmond's voice came through clearly. Didn't you get married? Why aren't you staying at Clyde's place, but at a hotel? The room card clattered to the floor. I scrambled to pick up the room card, but he was quicker than me. He swiped the card, pushed open the door, and stepped into the room, all in one fluid motion. I stood at the doorway, warily watching the man who now stood inside. What are you doing? Instead of answering, he looked down at me and asked, Clyde just let you stay in a hotel alone? I was shocked. He had managed to find out Clyde's identity in such a short time. This meant he had come prepared, which was why he had so brazenly entered my room. I composed myself, my face betraying no emotion. Helen, does she know you came to see me? He remained silent. The room was unlit, and he was hidden in the darkness, making it hard to see his expression. People occasionally passed by the hallway, glancing at us from time to time. My hand at my side clenched and unclenched, and finally, I made up my mind, turned around, and left. I hadn't taken 2 steps when my wrist was seized. A forceful pull dragged me into the room, pinning me against the door. In the silent darkness, only the shallow breathing above my head remained. In a daze, it felt as if I had returned to 6 years ago, to the first day we lived together. That night, we'd had a bit too much to drink, and he'd pressed me against the door just like this, kissing me. Back then, I thought it was the beginning of happiness. But I didn't realize that happiness would only last a few short days. Julia, a low voice echoed in the darkness. Did you break up with me back then just to marry Clyde? He was always like this. Even though he was the one who made the mistake, he always blamed me for it. It was true then, and it's true now. A nameless anger burned in my chest. I tried to hold it in, but couldn't, and looked up at him. Are you questioning me? In what capacity? On what grounds? Or have you come to dig up old scores? His sharply defined jawline was taut, and he stared at me without a word. After a long silence, he spoke slowly. All these years, and you still haven't learned to speak properly. A breath caught in my chest, neither rising nor falling. The past resurfaces like shards of broken glass, piercing the chest bit by bit. All the pain, in an instant, twists into a cold smile at the corner of the lips. What are you laughing at? He frowned. What's the point of you coming to find me? I tried to keep my voice calm. Who I marry, who I divorce, what does any of that have to do with you, Clyde? We broke up 6 years ago. Before I finally decided to leave, I had given him several chances, until I found his chat history with Helen on his phone. The first time we argued because of Helen. Osmond blacklisted Helen right in front of me, but not long after, I found he had unblocked Helen, told her not to eat ice during her period, and then blocked her again. Another example, we went to a temple to make a wish. He said he wanted to wander around alone. Then I saw him kneeling before the Buddha, making a wish. May Helen always be safe and happy. The thought of breaking up emerged at that moment. The day I decided to break up was the day Helen left the country. I saw them embracing in the rain, neither willing to let go first. I really liked him then, and I tried, so how could I not regret letting go? But liking him is one thing. If it means being too humble, Then I don't want it. An abrupt ringtone pulled me back to my thoughts. In the darkness, Helen's voice came through the receiver. Osmond, where are you? I don't know what else was said on the other end of the phone, while he wasn't paying attention. I snatched back the room card and turned on the lights. Under the light, Osmond's eyes, cold to the extreme, were bottomless. After a few seconds of staring, he turned, pulled open the door, and strode out. Before I could even exhale a sigh of relief, Clyde called, "Come down, you left your bag in the car." Only then did I realize I'd forgotten my bag when I got out of the car. I slowly made my way downstairs, and at the main entrance of the hotel, I saw Osmond again. He and Helen were talking by the roadside. As I approached, I heard Helen ask, her voice tearful, "Now that she's divorced, will you still be with her?" Osmond replied firmly, "No, really. Or did you think I'd marry a divorced woman?" I couldn't stop my whole body from trembling. Just a few minutes ago, he was still pestering me, and now he's flat out denying it. I paused, then turned and walked behind him. "Osmond." He turned his head. The next second, Helen screamed, "How dare you hit someone?" She held Osmond's face tenderly to check on him, then turned and glared at me fiercely. "Julia, how could you hit someone?" I looked at Osmond. "This slap should have been given to you 6 years ago." Osmond's eyes were red, whether from anger or pain, it was hard to tell, but none of it concerned me. As I turned to leave, my wrist was seized. Osmond's cold, hard voice rang out behind me. "Are you satisfied? If not, keep going." I clenched my fists, my whole body trembling with anger. Actually, when I broke up with Osmond, my family didn't approve. My parents said that even if the Liu family went bankrupt, as long as Osmond was given a little time to grow, rebuilding the Liu family would only be a matter of time. I understood all of that. His conditions in every aspect were impeccable. Yet, within these very conditions, I was demanding his heart. It's not as if I never caused a scene. Every time I argued with him, it was only to confirm that he still loved me. He knew exactly what I wanted to hear, but he just wouldn't give me that satisfaction. "Wife, what are you doing?" Clyde strode over with his long legs, naturally placing his hand on my waist. He looked at Osmond with a half smile. "Mr. Osmond, isn't it inappropriate for you to be holding my wife's hand like that?" Osmond's eyes darkened slightly. "You're already divorced." Clyde stared at my hand, still held captive, and smiled, a ripple of amusement crossing his face. "Hoping my wife gets a divorce, are we? Could it be that Mr. Osmond harbors some secret feelings for my wife?" As soon as he spoke, I felt the grip on my wrist loosen slightly. I immediately pulled my hand free, subtly widening the distance between Osmond and me. Clyde handed me the bag, saying sourly, "Haven't seen you for a while, and you've already attracted a suitor. Next time, try to be more discreet. His fiancée is still here." His voice was neither too loud nor too soft. Ensuring everyone present could hear him, I instinctively looked towards Helen. I saw that her already slightly red eyes had become even redder, and her body swayed precariously. She tried to get Osmond to say something, but Osmond just looked at us with a gloomy expression. I didn't feel sorry for her. 6 years ago, or even earlier, she knew full well that I was with Osmond, yet she comfortably accepted his meticulous care. She even intentionally or unintentionally flaunted in front of me how subtly and thoughtfully Osmond treated her. Now that the boomerang had come back to hit her, she finally knew how much it hurt. Clyde returned to the hotel with me. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling window, he watched the couple downstairs. His eyes filled with disdain. "Julia, you have terrible taste in men." I said nothing. Downstairs, Osmond and Helen were having a fierce argument. I don't know what they said. But Osmond turned and left, driving away in his car, leaving Helen, hoarse and distraught. This scene reminds me of that day 6 years ago, at the bustling airport. I, too, was hoarsely questioning Osmond like this. He had just been drenched in the rain and had seen Helen off. Facing my interrogation, he wearily said, "She and I are just friends." Regarding that hug, he explained, it was a hug between friends. I didn't understand why a hug between friends would be so forceful. Forceful enough to seem like he was trying to meld the other person into his own body. I pressed him, and he grew impatient, eventually leaving me alone at the airport. "Is it good?" Warm breath fell from above, and I suddenly realized Clyde had stood behind me without me noticing. He was so tall he almost enveloped me in his shadow. The powerful sense of oppression made me dare not even look up. I mumbled a reply, intending to go around him to the other side, but my steps were too hurried. And I stumbled over him, falling straight forward. Seeing that I was about to have an intimate encounter with the floor, I resignedly closed my eyes. The expected pain never came. A pair of strong arms directly lifted me up. Barely steady on my feet, I heard Clyde say, "This throwing yourself into my arms trick is a bit old-fashioned, but you pull it off with a certain freshness." I looked at him in horror. "What are you talking about?" He leaned in close, his deep eyes fixed unblinkingly on me. his thin lips uttering shameless words, "If you want to get back together, it's not entirely impossible." I reached out to check his forehead temperature. No fever. "So why are you talking nonsense?" Clyde realized what I was doing and suddenly laughed, a smile so handsome it made my hair stand on end. I haven't spent much time with Clyde over the years, but I know that despite his polished appearance, he's capable of anything. There was one time when things almost got out of hand between us. He was the one who initiated it, but I was the one who called it off. But he didn't stop right away. Instead, he stayed on top of me, trying to calm his breathing. He voluntarily slept on the couch that night, but the next day, I noticed my lip was cut. Facing the teasing looks from everyone at home, he curled his lips and said in a casual, roguish tone, "Accidentally bit it while giving her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation last night." The dining table was dead silent, only a childish voice mocked, "I've never heard of someone biting another's lip during CPR. Did you invent that yourself?" Clyde's defeated expression is still fresh in my memory. Clyde ended up being driven away by me in the end. After leaving the room, he pressed against the door. "Julia, if he comes looking for you again, let's get our marriage certificate one more time. Then we'll be even." I nodded perfunctorily, just wanting to send him away quickly. The door didn't budge. He said, "I'm serious." "All right, I'll remember that." He gave me a deep look and let go. As he closed the door, he added, "I'll pick you up tomorrow." If he had told me Osmond would also be at this ball, I would never have agreed. Unfortunately, by the time I found out, it was already too late. As soon as we arrived at the banquet hall, Clyde was called away by a business partner. He told me not to wander off and to find a place to wait for him. In the years since marrying Clyde, I've attended plenty of these kinds of dances, so I made my way to an inconspicuous corner to wait for Clyde to dance with me. But as soon as I stepped into the courtyard, I ran right into Osmond. I kept walking without stopping. After just a few steps, he blocked my way. "What's going on between you and Clyde? What does it have to do with you?" Osmond frowned slightly. "Didn't you know he has a childhood sweetheart he's been with for years?" "I know. Then why did you marry him?" I was puzzled. "Are you standing up for his white moonlight?" President Liu is really good at time management, handling a myriad of state affairs, yet still finding time to meddle in other people's marital matters. Osmond's pale face grew cold with layers of frost. "How did you become like this?" "Just because of that hug between me and Helen at the airport back then. See? He actually knows everything. He just doesn't want to bother spending any effort on me." Even after 6 years, bringing it up again, he still didn't feel it was his fault. I suddenly felt very tired. "We don't have the kind of relationship where we dig up old grievances, Mr. Osmond. Please don't say things like that again. Helen and I are getting married. You really don't mind?" "Why should I mind? You wouldn't mind even if we got married right away." "I wouldn't mind." I don't know which sentence provoked him, but he said good several times, a hint of coldness in his eyes and brows. "So, back then, you really abandoned me so decisively just because I was poor." It's no wonder he thought that. After all, at that time, it had been less than a month since his family went bankrupt. Anyone would think that was the main reason I abandoned him. Perhaps my silence lasted too long. Osmond pulled out a chilling smile. "I guess I misjudged you. All these years. Only Helen has been by my side. She accompanied me in raising funds, attending social events." "Sorry," a voice interrupted him. The newcomer stopped in front of me, looked me up and down, and exclaimed in surprise, "Your young master Julia." I greeted with a smile. "Long time no see." He was so excited, gripping my hand tightly. "You truly are my lucky star. If it weren't for you, I never would have bought shares in Lu Group. You're my benefactor." No, my second parent." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and just as I was about to speak, I heard Osmond ask, "Mr. Green, what are you talking about?" Mr. Green seemed to just notice Osmond, and he introduced, "This is the young CEO song I mentioned to you. Back then, everyone was against you. But she came to us and convinced us to invest in you." "Oh, right." She was afraid we wouldn't believe her, so she bought 25% of the shares herself first. Now that I think about it, I should have bought more. Osmond looked at him as if struck by lightning, stunned. "You're saying she's the biggest shareholder in our company?" "Yeah, haven't you met her?" Osmond slowly turned to me, something in his eyes crumbling. To verify his guess, I said, "I've never shown my face at the shareholder meetings all these years, so it's normal that you don't recognize me." He opened his mouth, and after a long pause, only managed to say, How could you have money, back then?" I was resolute about breaking up with him. My parents told me that if I changed my mind, they would no longer acknowledge me as their daughter. But before that, they had already told me that Osmond was a promising prospect. Love or money, I had to get one, didn't I? So when Clyde found me and asked me to marry him, I also laid out my condition, money. Clyde agreed readily, giving me as much as I asked for. In recent years, Osmond has helped me earn a lot of money. The ball wasn't even over when Osmond left. I was in a pretty good mood for the latter half, while Clyde was the one speaking sourly. I heard you met up with your ex again. You two seemed to talk for a long time. Did you have a good chat? Thinking that I could cash out my stocks soon, the corners of my mouth curved upwards. It was quite enjoyable. He narrowed his eyes dangerously, and with a slight pull, brought me into his embrace. Gritting his teeth, he whispered in my ear, "You're not allowed to see your ex again, understand?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Clyde, to me, you and he are the same, both exes." "No, we're not," he said fiercely. "He's just an ex-boyfriend, I'm an ex-husband." "Got it, ex-hubby." "Clyde." When the ball ended, Clyde insisted on walking me back to the hotel. Once we were back at the hotel, he still wanted to walk me upstairs. I refused, but he wouldn't leave. As we stood there, deadlocked, Osmond arrived. Though it had only been a few hours since I last saw him, he seemed to have completely fallen apart. Ignoring Clyde's presence, he walked straight up to me. "Can we talk?" Before I could speak, Clyde suddenly bent down, picked me up, and strode outside. I exclaimed, "What are you doing?" "Going home." He shoved me into the car, locked the door, and stared at me intently. "How come I never noticed before how much of a flirt you are? What's wrong with you? Let me down." He pointed at Osmond, who stood like a statue at the hotel entrance. "You'd rather go back and be bothered by him than come with me." "I don't speak." Clyde was satisfied. He started the car and said, "I told you not to stay in a hotel. If you stayed at home, there wouldn't be so much trouble." "Clyde," I said, "your first love isn't coming back, is she?" He suddenly fell silent. I continued, "Even though I don't know what happened between you two, it's impossible for us. Just drop me off at a nearby hotel. Thanks." For the rest of the drive, he didn't say a word. The car stopped by the roadside. As I opened the door to get out, he suddenly called out to me, "If we were to meet again for the first time, would you accept me?" "There are no ifs. Then what about Osmond? Would you get back together with him?" I chuckled softly. "Clyde, I don't think I need to go back and pick up men I've already discarded. Having dealt with the shares, I had no reason to stay." The day before I left, Clyde called me. "Osmond's wedding is off. Guess why?" "Why?" "Because of you." "Oh." Perhaps seeing my low spirits, he didn't pursue the topic further. "What time's your flight?" "I'll take you. Don't trouble yourself." TSK. So heartless, won't even let me see you off. Despite saying that, he still came. Besides him, there was also Osmond. After not seeing him for a few days, Osmond had sunken eyes and a scruffy beard, completely lacking his usual refinement. As he approached, Clyde pulled me into a hug and we entered the security checkpoint. In a very loud voice, he said, "Julia, your ex is an eyesore." I thought Clyde was just there to see me off, but to my surprise, he boarded the plane with me. I stared at him in shock. "Are you crazy?" He smiled calmly. "Just assume I am. Stop messing around. Get down now." He put on his sunglasses and didn't move. "No, I promised Grandpa I wouldn't go home without you." "Fine, then don't ever go home in your life." The end. Story 2. Because I replied late to my boyfriend's message, he suggested breaking up, and I agreed. This was the 108th time he brought it up, and the only time I agreed, he was taken aback. "Is this your attitude after taking over 10 hours to reply to my message?" I was in the middle of surgery, a life or death moment, and he still demanded I reply instantly. We've argued about this countless times, and every time he threatens to break up, now that I've agreed, he's suddenly furious. "If you truly loved me enough, why can't you respond to everything I ask? You just don't love me enough. You even answer your patients' calls faster than mine." Mildred, the line of people waiting to date me stretches from LA to New York. Don't you regret it? Hanging up the phone, I felt exhausted, more so than after performing surgery. This 8-year-long relationship felt like an endless game of tug-of-war. What does it matter if my hands are covered in calluses? I should have let go long ago. This patient's surgery was extremely challenging. After opening the skull, I remained in a state of intense mental focus. After completing the final sutures, I nearly collapsed to the floor, completely drained. I didn't even have time to drink the glucose the nurse sympathetically handed me before I went to return Calvin's call. His first words came as a sharp, sudden accusation. "Do you have any sense of time? At the gates of the underworld, every second is a matter of life and death." I tried to explain why I returned the call late, but Calvin wasn't listening at all. "Is it really so hard to just let me know what you're doing whenever I try to reach you?" His voice was loud, piercing through the receiver. The nurse, Mary, who was holding my phone for me, looked embarrassed. "MS, Mildred, I told him you were in surgery." I waved my hand helplessly, indicating that it wasn't her fault and she shouldn't worry about it. I asked him patiently, "Did something urgent happen? Where are you?" Having witnessed the daily partings of life and death in the hospital, I instinctively began to think the worst. Calvin paused, his breathing growing heavier. "Are you saying I can't reach out to you unless it's an emergency?" I've heard this many times before. It always feels like the prelude to an argument. I tried to calm my emotions, still hoping to discuss with him where to go for dinner. He let out a cold laugh. Mildred, do you know how long I've been waiting for you at home? Faintly, the voice of his junior sister Pamela could be heard from the receiver. How much longer? Tell your girlfriend to hurry back and pick us up. The game is about to start. Calvin seemed to turn back and whisper a few comforting words, but to me, his tone remained cold and sharp. How long until you get home? You know my car is restricted today. You need to come back and drive us to the game. Tired. I can't even describe how exhausted I am. I lean against the hospital wall. Calvin, I've been in surgery for over 10 hours. Even with traffic restrictions, he could still call a car, and he doesn't just have that one car. You're always like this when it comes to my matters. He suddenly got angry. Let's just break up. Okay, he chuckled lightly. You forced me to say something harsh. I'll be waiting downstairs in 10 minutes. I rubbed my temples, too tired to say anything more to him. Calvin, I agree to break up, he said. The line of people waiting to date him stretches from LA to New York. Pamela is from LA, and whoever is in New York, I don't care anymore. A family member came to see me carrying a few net bags of fruit while I was writing medical records in the duty room. While pushing him away, she signaled with her eyes for the head nurse to come over. In just that short moment, the phone rang again. This time it was Pamela. Mildred, where are you? We're really running out of time. Senior couldn't drive after drinking. My temples were throbbing, yet I could still hear Calvin's voice in the background. Ask her if she's off the overpass yet. On the way back, stop by Duobai and grab 2 boxes of durian pizza. Somehow, I could faintly smell the scent of durian in the air. The pain between my eyebrows deepened a little more. Calvin is a race car driver who just finished the first half of the rally season. Now he is in his 2-month break. The so-called break means he spends his days either at home, in bars, or at the training ground from morning till night. Pamela joined his club last year and has been calling him senior all day long. This break, I followed him all the way back from LA, said it was to learn from him up close, but it ended up being ordering takeout every day or going out to have fun together. Ever since Pamela arrived, the smell of durian in the house just won't go away. Calvin knows I don't like it, but that doesn't stop him from making me buy all kinds of durian products. Pamela is a guest, so we should accommodate her. I never asked you to eat it. He always has a ready excuse. There are countless instances like this where he demands things of me without considering my feelings. During his competition season, he expects instant replies to calls and messages, and I have to report my whereabouts at all times. He always thinks he's in the right. I need to focus intensely. You can't distract me, or I might have an accident. Every relationship has its sweet period. The people around him said it so often that even I started to believe his behavior was a sign of his care for me. But after 8 years, he only cared about me within the confines of his own understanding. Yet time and again, he overlooked the fact that when they feasted on those durians in the living room, I had to hide in the bedroom, covering my mouth and nose. Mildred, where are you? Remember to bring the durian pizza. I snapped back to reality. I'm at the hospital. Also, tell Calvin we've broken up. Please move out of my place as soon as possible, and take the durian millfuel from the fridge with you. Pamela screamed. Don't, if you two are going to break up, at least wait until I'm back in LA. Otherwise, what will people think of me? The phone was snatched by Calvin. Mildred, did you already want to break up with me? Are you seeing someone else? Was it during your exchange program in Shanghai last time, or when you lied to me about being in a closed-door meeting? His voice trembled with anger. I looked up at the gloomy sky outside the narrow window of the duty room, feeling as if layers of damp, moldy newspapers were weighing down on my heart. Calvin, I called his name. You're the one who wanted to break up. I'm just letting you have your way. He hysterically slammed something, creating a loud crash. His voice suddenly rising sharply. I need you to let me have my way. Mildred, we're not breaking up. Come back and pick me up right now. Among the family members of the patient, there was a young man who looked travel-worn and was still dragging a suitcase. Through the glass on the duty room door, I saw the head nurse patiently explaining things to him. The man had handsome features, nodding from time to time with a gentle and pleasant expression. A temperament completely different from Calvin. Calvin was unruly, often raising an eyebrow and curling the corner of his lips with a hint of disdain and contempt. The little nurses in the hospital gathered and gossiped about him, saying he was full of wickedness. They also teased me. Mildred, if it weren't for the fact that he only has eyes for you when you're around, it really doesn't look like you two are a couple. It doesn't look like it. Closing my eyes, I couldn't help but think that he and Pamela probably fit people's idea of a couple much better. They joked around, even in my line of sight, wielding spatulas as if they were weapons, gesturing and posturing. I've attended a few of their club's private events. Sitting by Calvin's side as his family member, he sprawled casually, one arm draped over the back of my chair, tilting his head as he chatted and laughed with them. It seemed only when I got up alone to answer a phone call or go to the restroom that he suddenly became aware of my presence. In the repeated phone calls, he grew increasingly impatient and irritable. "Who are you talking to? Can't you take the call next to me? I've called several times and the line is always busy. Do you really need to be in the bathroom for so long? I don't believe there's a queue, just look. How many people are lining up for the men's restroom? Mildred, where are you? Why aren't you answering the phone? Where are you going that you can't tell me? You told me already. Oh, I forgot, can't you just say it a few more times?" Now, the business trips to Shanghai and the closed-door seminars in the suburbs that he suspects me of, all of them were actually spent under his 24-hour surveillance. The phone rang again. I didn't answer, until it gradually fell silent. Pamela sent a message. "Mildred, I'm not trying to lecture you, but your boyfriend treats you well enough. If I had a boyfriend who cared about me this much, I'd wake up smiling in my sleep. Don't be ungrateful. If someone really snatches him away, you won't even have a place to cry." I turned over, wrapped myself tightly in the blanket, and fell asleep. Even if the sky were to fall right now, there's only one thought left in my mind. If I don't catch up on sleep soon, I'm afraid the emergency room will have a patient with sudden cardiac death. When I woke up again, it was already the next afternoon. I had slept a full 16 hours. My phone showed hundreds of missed calls, all of them from Calvin. There was a note left by the head nurse by the pillow. The patient's family said they hope you'll contact them when you wake up. They'd like to thank you in person. Beneath it was a business card, City BYF Capital, Clark. Along with those hundreds of missed calls flooding the screen, there were also countless messages. I scrolled back a few messages, my brow involuntarily furrowing, then simply scrolled all the way to the end. It was sent before last night's match. I finish at 10 p.m. Here, everyone from the club is around. Come pick me up and don't be late. More than 20 hours had passed again. I sent a message. Didn't see it. Fell asleep yesterday. Message failed to send. Calvin has blocked me. I stared blankly at the little red dot in front of the message, my eyes growing warm, but only for a moment. Calvin has broken up with me 108 times and blocked me 108 times. Every single time before, it was me who swallowed my pride and begged for reconciliation, and then he would reluctantly toss his phone to me. "You unblock yourself, and I'm telling you, there won't be a next time." Got it. On one hand, he leaned in to watch my fingers at work, gritting his teeth and saying, "Where else are you going to find a man who loves you as much as I do, and you're still not satisfied? Where to find one?" "I won't look anymore," I thought with a bitter smile and shook my head. If a person's capacity for love is like a fully charged battery, then clearly this battery of mine has long been depleted at Calvin's end. Not a single bit of charge can be replenished. Pamela's message came in the early hours of the morning. "You've really embarrassed your senior this time. He waited for you from around 10 o'clock all the way until almost 2 in the morning. Mildred, is it true that all doctors' hearts are as cold as a scalpel? My senior brother is really pitiful to have ended up with you. Don't blame others for taking advantage of the situation. If you're not careful, you simply don't deserve my senior brother." I've caught up on my sleep, and I feel much more energetic now. Although I still feel a bit unsteady on my feet when I get up, it doesn't stop me from typing quickly. Typing a line wasn't satisfying enough. So I deleted it all and directly made a voice call. Pamela didn't answer, hanging up every single time. I simply held down the button and sent a rapid-fire string of voice messages. "Since when do you have to send a notice before making a move? When you were going in and out of Calvin's room in your camisole nightgown, weren't you just hoping we'd break up? You're not worthy of me. You're the most worthy. Even the key maker downstairs isn't as good a match as you." Releasing the send button, my nearly numb, suppressed emotions cleared like clouds parting to reveal the sun. A muffled laugh came from outside the door. I stood up alertly and looked up, meeting the gaze of the family member who had visited yesterday. Right outside the glass window, he cleared his throat lightly, a bit awkwardly. "Ms. Mildred, sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop." He pointed to the half-open door. "It's not soundproof, and you were just speaking a bit loudly. Very big, I know. Because when I first got together with Calvin, every time I got carried away while talking, he would frown and remind me, 'Mildred, your voice gets especially sharp when you relax. Tone it down a bit.'" I looked at the tall and elegant man, feeling quite awkward. "I think I should introduce myself first. I'm the grandson of the patient you operated on yesterday. My name is Clark." I nodded and responded vaguely, "I know, YF Capital is quite well known in City B. My younger brother Lee Faher once considered getting into YF Capital as one of his life goals. So far, he has only achieved 1% of that progress, submitting his resume. But Clark probably misunderstood. Did my grandfather mention it to you? Then you must have guessed why I came to see you." "I can't exactly say my brother mentions your name 800 times a day." I coughed. "No, The head nurse gave me her business card yesterday. After I reiterated that treating patients and saving lives is my duty and declined the family's gratitude, a faint smile remained on his face. The main reason I'm looking for you is actually to invite you to join a medical and elderly care project our company is investing in, he added. I was on a business trip abroad before and had several discussions with the dean. Coincidentally, he also recommended you to me. He then handed over a thick proposal, if you have the time. Our project is currently conducting research in Kyoto, and would like to invite you to join us for an on-site visit. I was just thinking of a reason to politely decline. The dean said you just applied for annual leave before the surgery. I swallowed the words that were on the tip of my tongue. Kyoto, actually, it might not be a bad idea. I was originally on vacation, also to accompany Calvin to Kyoto. He has a competition there in the second half of the year and had mentioned many times earlier about going to check out the venue. Thinking of this, I felt a bit wistful again. Pamela has been staying here, just waiting to go with us. A while back, while I was studying the surgical plan, the two of them got together and already looked up all the travel guides for Kyoto. Clark looked at me, MS, Mildred. I looked down at the message that popped up on my phone, sent by Calvin, who had blocked me. I'm giving you one last chance. From now on, you're not allowed to take more than 10 minutes to reply to my messages. I'll be waiting for you at home. By the way, what did you do to Pamela? Her eyes are all red from crying. Buy a durian and come back to apologize. I opened his moments and saw that the 6-month visibility limit for friends had been restored to normal. Clearly, this time he took the initiative to remove me from the blacklist, but I didn't feel the slightest bit of relief. It was as if that night of heavy sleep had untangled all the muddled emotions of the past 8 years. I no longer wanted to spar with him in this childish game. Clark insisted on accompanying me home to get my passport. The car was parked downstairs, and I hurried up to open the door. A scene of chaos greeted my eyes. Almost everything that could be smashed in the spacious living room had been destroyed. I was momentarily stunned, until Calvin cast a cold glance from the sofa. A fresh wound visible on his face. Decided to come back. Mildred, you don't even cherish the last chance I gave you. He rushed toward me barefoot, striding over the shattered glass on the floor, shaking his phone. It's been another hour since I sent you the message, and you don't even have a few minutes to reply. Pamela's eyes were terribly red, and she flusteredly tried to hold him back. Brother, watch your step. Calvin forcefully shook her off. His eyes bloodshot as he glared down at me. Explain yourself. Give me a proper explanation right now. From the afternoon of the day before yesterday when you went to the hospital until now, every minute, every second of these 20 to 30 hours, what were you doing? I suddenly felt powerless. That kind of exhaustion from being drained on the operating table with nowhere to lean on came rushing back. Under extreme fatigue, one seems to become numb to everything. I avoided him and went straight into the room to get my passport. Calvin took a few deep breaths and followed me in. He forcefully turned me to face him. Do you know how worried I was about you? During the game yesterday, all I could think about was you. Is it really that hard to reply to my message? Mildred, you're my girlfriend. Is it really too much to ask to know what you're doing at any given time? I nodded. That's too much. He froze. I pried his hand off and walked to the living room. With him following closely behind, I pointed at the paused projection, the game progress still displayed on the screen, and then there were the snacks and takeout wrappers scattered across the dining table, sofa, and carpet. You know very well I was in surgery. You called many times, and the nurse told you I was in surgery. May I ask what you were worried about? You were at home playing games with your junior sister, eating takeout, and looking forward to the evening match, in your spare time. You kept calling me endlessly. I stared at his flushed face. Aside from being at the hospital, all my free time is spent with you. Oh no, now with your junior sister as well. As long as I don't return your calls or messages within the time you demand, you threaten to break up. Calvin, I'm exhausted. I've had enough of the cry wolf game. So this time when you mentioned breaking up, I agreed without a second of hesitation. His face gradually turned pale, and he bit his lower lip. Cutting me off, you say you didn't hesitate for even a second. I nodded. At that time, I had just come out of a surgery that lasted over 10 hours. You know, for a few seconds, I felt like I could die at any moment. I don't want to keep responding to your unreasonable demands at any given moment. 8 years, if this kind of life has to go on, I think I'd be the one who's truly gone mad. Calvin showed not a trace of remorse, his hand clenched into a fist at his side. With a sarcastic glance at Clark standing outside the open door, saying so much, yet you still don't dare admit you're seeing someone else, he rolled up his sleeves and suddenly strode toward Clark, his fist already raised. Ah! Pamela screamed in fright, her hands tightly covering her eyes. I stared in disbelief at what had just happened by the door. Clark lightly rotated his wrist, shifting his gaze from Calvin, who had fallen to the ground, to my face. His expression was apologetic, but his tone was not. Sorry, Mildred. It was a reflex. He reached out his hand toward Calvin, still looking down on him. Since childhood, our family has trained us in self-defense. I couldn't hold back out of instinct. Calvin grimaced in pain, struggling to get up from the ground, and slapped his hand away fiercely. He still wanted to strike. But I quickly stepped forward and pulled him away. Are you done yet? He looked at me in disbelief, his eyes completely red, as if I had wronged him terribly. Mildred, you said you weren't. Now you're taking his side, aren't you? He snatched the passport from my hand. Where are you going now? Before I could speak, Clark was already checking the time. Mildred, we might be a bit pressed for time. Where are you going? Calvin, this sentence was almost growled out. I could feel my temples throbbing. To Kyoto. In the moment he was dazed, I snatched back my passport and walked out without looking back. Calvin grabbed my arm forcefully. You're just trying to piss me off on purpose, aren't you? He held on so tightly that I felt as if my wrist was about to break. Clark subtly grabbed him, seemingly using a clever technique, and I easily withdrew my hand. Pamela had already moved next to Calvin, one hand tightly gripping his sleeve. Senior brother. She hasn't even noticed the injury on your face since she came in. Can't you see what that means? She glared at me resentfully, persuading Calvin. Someone who doesn't know how to cherish you won't even glance at you no matter how much you yield. Calvin's reddened eyes welled up with glistening tears as he coldly turned his face away. Get lost, Mildred. Get out now. We're completely over. My heart felt as if pierced by countless needles, and my breathing was a bit strained. Yet I tried my best to calm my emotions, pretending to be composed as I looked up at them. The ones who should get out are you. I'll have my brother come by later. Just give him the key when you leave after packing your things. Until boarding the flight to Kyoto, Clark never asked about my personal matters. He seemed very busy, typing away on his laptop the whole time. I turned my head to look at the layers of clouds outside the window, passing through one layer only to sink into another. When we arrived at the airport, Lee Feihe called to tell me he had gotten the keys. He hesitated, words caught in his throat. Calvin left without taking anything. His keys were on the table. He was already gone by the time I arrived. Sis, I think he still believes you're just sulking and waiting for you to coax him back. Exhausted, I leaned back slightly and closed my eyes, almost unable to bear looking back on the past 8 years. The once happy moments seem unable to withstand the magnifying glass of time. Even uttering the words I loved you feels difficult to say. Calvin entered society earlier than I did, an early departed mother, a remarried father, and a half-brother who received more affection than he did. From the moment we met, I knew he was a sensitive and extremely insecure person. At that time, he was holding a helmet in one hand, blowing the stray hairs on his forehead, and had a disdainful expression for everyone. I had repeatedly warned him not to leave the hospital. He had to wait until the treatment was over and the club sent someone to sign the discharge papers. He glanced at me, quickly scribbled a messy signature, and tossed the pen aside casually. Satisfied, stop nagging. If you delay my match, I'll smash your windows. But I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him back to the ward. Much later, he was discharged to compete, only to get injured again and return to the hospital. Then, with a slightly flushed face and a pout, he tossed the competition ticket onto my desk. Come if you want, or don't. Standing on the stage after winning the championship, his eyes anxiously searched the crowd for my figure. The moment our eyes met, his smile bloomed like that of a youth. The past 8 years, like fragments of time, drifted and swirled bizarrely before my eyes. I didn't even know when I fell asleep, when I woke up again. It was Clark patting my shoulder. We're here, Mildred. Oh, you don't mind me calling you by your first name, do you? I shuddered and sat up straight, momentarily disoriented about where I was. Clark handed me a tissue, gave me an unreadable glance, and walked out first. Slowly, I reached up and felt nothing but dampness on my cheek. Deep down, after untangling the threads of my thoughts, it turns out there is still some sadness. After landing, I sent a message to say I was safe. And Mary quietly told me Calvin had been to the hospital. He probably didn't believe I had actually gone to Kyoto. He asked me in detail about my itinerary after that day, the hours before and after I didn't answer his calls. When Mary said with a heartache that my face was as pale as paper after the surgery that day, Calvin lowered his head and said nothing. After a long while, he muttered, in her heart, patience will always be more important than me. Mary was so angry that she said she felt like hitting someone at that moment. Even if you're love-struck, shouldn't you know when to draw the line? I've never seen someone so possessive, even getting jealous of a patient. I listened helplessly. Clark had already handed me the room key, using lip language to tell me to meet at the restaurant later. Mary was still reminding me. Calvin already knew I came to Kyoto with Clark. After I hung up the phone, I looked up. The hotel's revolving door had just completed a full turn, and I watched Calvin walk in with a grim expression. Pamela followed closely behind him, pulling her suitcase. He passed by me without even a glance. He just paused in his steps. The hotel was booked by the club. Don't flatter yourself thinking I came here for you. Every word was like a knife. But it can't hurt me now, I hummed in agreement. We've broken up. So why are you looking for me? His face darkened even more. He snorted through his nose, turned his head away, and suddenly reached out to wrap his arm around Pamela's slender waist. Suddenly turning halfway, Pamela nestled against him almost as if overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. Her face instantly flushed with a delicate, rosy shyness. Senior brother. Calvin stared at me provocatively, though his words were directed at her. You heard it too. I'm single now, open to all comers. Pamela was taken aback. Her expression a mix of surprise and disbelief. I had already walked over to press the elevator button. Even though I appeared calm on the surface, my fingers on the button were icy cold. With my back to them, I took a deep breath to calm my emotions. I kept telling myself inside, it's over. Who he's with and what he's doing has nothing to do with you anymore. Mildred, this is the 108th time. Since you've made a decision for yourself, what is there to regret? Waiting at the restaurant wasn't just Clark, but also his business partner in Kyoto. I've reviewed the proposal. Actually, the dean had more or less mentioned his interest in this project before. Clark clearly came well prepared, speaking at length about the prospects of the senior economy and the integration of medical care and elderly support in the operation and coverage planning of the entire project, forming a linkage with specialized hospitals and professional medical teams, and even making hospitals a key part of the industry chain, is the reason why Clark strongly invited me to join. The entire meeting process was pleasant. I listened attentively and occasionally jotted down key points in my memo. During the break, Clark handed me a cup of matcha, looking at me with a rather meaningful expression. To be honest, that gaze felt like a thorn in my back. I coughed a little uncomfortably. Clark smiled and said, You don't need to be nervous. I'm just a bit surprised at how one person can have so many completely different sides. The focused side on the operating table, the unapproachable side of it, and the masochistic side when faced with trivial love. After finishing the discussion with the partner, Clark and I entered the elevator together. My phone rang at an inopportune moment. It was an unfamiliar number. The gasps of a man and a woman, like a clap of thunder, shattered the silence in the elevator the moment the call connected. I heard Pamela's voice mixed in, trembling and coquettish. Senior, don't do this. More than sadness, the most vivid feeling I had was sheer embarrassment, almost fumbling to hang up, but ended up putting it on speakerphone by mistake. Pamela was still calling out Shixiang one after another, sounding both restrained and not quite restrained. I turned my head and met Clark's expression of desperately holding back laughter. And the anger in my heart couldn't help but flare up. Almost without thinking, I unleashed a torrent of words into the phone. Calvin, Pamela, I don't care which one of you called. I have zero interest in your enthusiastic performance. How childish can you be? Don't you understand what breakup means? Do whatever you want in bed, and the farther you stay away, the better. Clark looked up at the elevator, sealing the moment I hung up with a dark expression. Pretending not to have heard anything, when I reached my floor and stepped out of the elevator, I immediately spotted Calvin rushing over in a bathrobe. The moment our eyes met, his expression was like an overturned dye vat, flustered, nervous, and seemingly a bit aggrieved. Following closely behind him was Pamela, her clothes disheveled, with tear stains still fresh on her face. Calvin spoke, his voice trembling slightly. Mildred, let me explain, senior brother. Pamela reached out to grab him, but he shook her off with disgust, unable to steady herself in time. Pamela fell to the ground. The elevator doors reopened behind me. Clark came back and was clearly a bit surprised by the situation before him. Mildred, I mean it's still early. Would you like to go for a walk? I should remind him that this isn't the time to suggest a walk. Clearly too late. Calvin's eyes were reddened, as if enraged to the point of laughter. He staggered back 2 steps. His pointing finger trembling. He said he had just heard the phone call and immediately rushed out to find me and explain. He had drunk a lot of alcohol, and in his muddled state, he heard my voice, only to then realize Pamela was lying on his chest. You keep saying you want to break up, then without a word you leave me and run off abroad with another man. Didn't I come all this way just to give you a chance? His eyes grew redder and redder. He said that if I were willing to say a few soft words, we could go back to how things were before. I only smiled bitterly. Why go back to the way things were? Calvin, I don't want to return to the past at all. My words left him speechless, his eyes wide as if he couldn't believe what I had just said. Is it because of him? He quickly zeroed in on Clark as the source of the conflict. I shook my head. It has nothing to do with him. Is he a new surgeon at your hospital, an intern? or the one who called you in the middle of the night to ask about the schedule. I've endured these baseless, almost non-existent accusations for 8 years, and now I don't want to put up with it for even a second longer. I calmly looked straight at him. No, Calvin, you know me well. Otherwise you wouldn't deliberately provoke me with such words. In fact, over these 8 years, I've hardly had any friends of the opposite sex besides you. You even check my chat logs with colleagues at any time. You know exactly what my job entails. Yet over the years you've only intensified your demands, insisting I report my every move to you at a moment's notice. If I answer the phone even a second late, you throw a fit, and when it gets out of hand, you threaten to break up. His lips trembled slightly, and a flash of hurt flickered in his eyes. Isn't it because I love you? When have I ever cared about what anyone else does, except for you? Calvin, this kind of love is almost suffocating me. Pamela got up from the ground and once again reached out to grab Calvin's arm. Senior, I told you she doesn't love you. You even said that if she saw you bringing me to Kyoto, she would immediately kneel and beg you not to break up. Now you believe it, right? She's long since given up on you. She held her phone in front of him, showing the encyclopedia entry about Clark. A career-driven woman like her would only choose someone who is more advantageous to her. I recalled the awkwardness in the elevator just now, and how she used to put on airs in front of me, relying on Calvin's influence. I quickly stepped forward, snatched the phone, and smashed it hard against the wall. Instantly, some fragments scattered, and Pamela's face changed. Mildred, you're out of your mind. I grabbed her loosely hanging bathrobe. If you want to chase after your beloved senior, just do it openly. Stop taking cheap shots behind my back. Calvin, do you know what annoys me most about you right now? He looked at me in confusion. What? I forcefully threw Pamela at him, always using one woman to test another woman's feelings for you. You're pathetic, and so am I, for having loved you for the past 8 years. Clark changed hotels the very next day. He swore up and down that this time he definitely wouldn't let Calvin find me. I didn't comment on it. Truth be told, I wasn't afraid of running into him or Pamela. Every day, I received long, rambling messages from Calvin, mostly sent late at night or in the early hours of the morning. Perhaps the stillness of the late night makes one more keenly aware of the reality and power of heartbreak. This aftermath is vividly reflected in Calvin. But he still hasn't reflected on it. His lengthy messages are filled with grievance and confusion. He is always questioning me. Mildred, didn't I do all that because I love you? How could loving you be wrong? Sometimes I got close to Pamela just to upset you for always neglecting me because of work. I brought up breaking up just to scare you. You knew it all along. Otherwise, why didn't you take it seriously all those times before? I read, I deleted, and never replied. I found it hard to explain to him why, out of the 108 times he asked, it was only this time that I agreed, and with such firmness and finality. It's also hard to explain to him what made me finally decide. The wind of Kyoto gently soothes the old wounds in my heart amidst the busy inspections and discussions. When I returned to City B, I quickly agreed to cooperate with Clark. Due to the need for many patient follow-ups and communications, I couldn't easily change my number. This resulted in me still receiving Calvin's heartbreak monologues from time to time over the next half-year or so, as well as drunken greetings from his fellow riders at the club, over and over. The same old complaints accused me of easily abandoning such a pure-hearted Calvin. They all said I would regret it. What would I regret? The hospital is still as busy as a spinning top, and in my spare time, I still have to participate in the promotion of medical care projects. But I don't seem to be as tired as before. I can make time for a cup of coffee after the surgery. I can casually jot down the countries and cities I want to visit during my annual leave on the calendar. When my phone vibrates, I no longer feel my heart tremble with the constant anxiety that something bad is happening. What matters is, I no longer need to sacrifice any of my freedom to accommodate a lover who always demands proof of my love. Without Calvin, time passed quickly, in a rush. It was already the end of the year, half a year after we parted ways. That call came just as I had finished a follow-up phone consultation with a patient. Someone from the club told me that Calvin had a serious accident during a competition in Kyoto. He really wants to see you. If you don't come, he'll die. On the other end of the phone, there was a breathless wait. Even though the other side was trying hard to suppress it, I could still hear Calvin's lowered voice in the background. Is she coming? I roughly understood the situation and cleared my throat. I'm sorry, we broke up a long time ago. There's no need for us to meet. The person on the other end clearly grew anxious. Aren't you a doctor? Even if you've broken up, isn't it your duty to treat and save people? He just wants to see you. It's not an unreasonable request. Calvin lowered his voice, still nervously whispering a reminder. Did you tell her I'd die if she doesn't come? Does she know how serious it is for me? And, I might never be able to race cars again. Even though his voice was quiet, I could hear the deep disappointment in it. The other person asked cautiously, "Ms. Mildred, if it's convenient for you, we can arrange to book your tickets and hotel." I looked up and saw Clark walking toward me. I decided to end the call as soon as possible, inconvenient, as if sensing I was about to hang up. This time it was Calvin who called out, "Mildred." He spoke urgently about his competition in Kyoto. About how he had trained for 2 whole months before the event, but his condition kept worsening. He couldn't stop searching for news about me, and the long messages he sent me sank like stones into the sea. He even had people from the club secretly visit me in the hospital, listening to their detailed reports about my every move, what I ate, what I did, who I talked to, and even my expressions. But on the day the race began, he kept dialing my number over and over. Repeatedly hearing the busy tone on the other end, he never wanted to believe that we had truly broken up. Even as he started the race, circling up and forward along the highway, the questions in his mind never stopped. His car was completely totaled, and all his old injuries came back. He might have to spend the next several years recovering and rehabilitating. He asked me, "Mildred, if you don't come, I'll really die. Are you still not coming?" I paused for a moment before replying to him. Word by word, "Mr. Calvin, see a doctor if you're sick." He smiled bitterly. "Aren't you the doctor? My only doctor. Without you, I have no cure. Sorry, your appointment here expired long ago." Calvin didn't call again. I actually saw the report about that accident on the big screen in the hospital cafeteria. Calvin's car rear-ended the driver in front, but the speed was too high. The front car veered off the track, crashed directly into the barrier, and flipped several times before coming to a stop. The female driver inside was Pamela. When she was carried out, she was covered in injuries, yet she was still gazing longingly in Calvin's direction. Until the ambulance door closed, she never received a single glance from Calvin. What awaited her might be an even crueler future than what Calvin faced. It was her first official competition, and also her last. "Where's my phone? Did my girlfriend call?" No, that number, almost carved into his flesh, seemed like it hadn't rung in a long time. Since Pamela moved into the house, Mildred hasn't called again, Calvin thought, feeling a bit pleased. He felt he had finally found the root of their ongoing argument. He didn't care about the injuries or the suspension. He just kept urging the club's staff, "Call Mildred and tell her I'll die if she doesn't come." Once the call connected, he crouched stubbornly nearby, waiting. By the time the phone had long fallen silent, he had lost track of how long he'd been crouching there. Someone from the club took his phone away. His mind was still lingering on what she had said. The number had been called and missed. Clark came to see the dean, and incidentally visited me. It seems that ever since the head nurse sternly told him that all gifts were refused, his visits to me have become more frequent and his reasons more varied. But in reality, we just drank coffee and chatted a little. After returning from Kyoto, we had a frank conversation. He admitted that the first time he came to see me was actually encouraged by the old man, who had quite an obsession with having a doctor as a granddaughter-in-law. But it was also true that he wanted to recruit me for the medical care project. As for now, he said he didn't want to go against the old man, and making an occasional trip wasn't too far anyway. But then, he tactically coughed twice. Besides, nothing is set in stone. The days are long, who can say for sure what the future holds? I thought again of the wind in Kyoto. It could soothe the wounds of time, and it seemed to bring gentle hope as well. The end.